tonight. The Inter-Dominion just over 2 hours away, as he has been throughout the series. Adam Hamilton, trackside, good evening.
Good evening, Sam. Great to be with you and great to be here in an atmosphere that is, well, simply impossible to put into words. We've had a real scorcher, high 30s here in Perth today. The breeze has come through. You could not have scripted a better night. Clear skies, great racing action ahead of us, Sam, and one of the most entertaining and intriguing Inter-Dominion finals I can recall for a long, long time. If this doesn't deliver a great race, then I don't know what more ingredients you could have to do so.
Adam, on paper, it certainly appears as though there are any number of possibilities, especially at the start. I guess your opinion is worth as much as anybody's. How do you read it early?
Well, firstly to explain, I'm getting more and more confused as we get closer to the race. Initially, I thought Joe Fess had virtually no hope of holding up for the lead. As we're getting closer to the race, more people, more good judges, more people I respect are saying don't discount that possibility. In fact, they're saying that if he can get a little bit of a shepherd from Double Identity on his outside, then it may be hard for Buck the Odds to get the required length and a half to 2 lengths to actually clear Joe Fess early. I'll say that I think Buck the Odds will lead, and I've spoken to Mark Reid tonight. He will catch up with us on air later on. He is of the opinion that he may hold the lead if he gets there. Now, that's a big surprise to me, but that is pretty significant information to pass on to punters. I would have assumed he would take a sit on something like the Falcon Strike or Mr. DG. Mark, daring as he is, said that providing it's not suicide pace, he may try for an all-the-way win. That would change the dynamics of this race enormously.
I guess it's a surprise, and it's not a surprise, Adam. I think most people felt that he would take a trail and ensuring his best possible finish, but he has lowered the colours of some pretty decent horses over the past few weeks by leading, admittedly, over shorter trips both times. I'm not one of the good judges you spoke to, but for what very little it's worth, Adam, and I can't begin to tell you how little that is, I think Joe Fess can punch through and hold the lead as well.
Well, if he does, then it becomes an even more exciting race, because you've got the Falcon Strike facing the scenario of having to sit outside Joe Fess. I mean, that is almost certainly what will happen. And then Gary Hall's got the ultimate game of chess to play in his own head. How much pressure to put on Joe Fess, a horse who led throughout and beat him in a real staying test here a couple of starts back on night 2 of the series. But he's got to pour the pressure on. He knows he can't sit up and out-sprint him, but if he pours on a stack of pressure, then Mr. DG, Sokiola, Double Identity will all be sitting back and having the last shot at him. So I don't know what sort of race it turns into then, except one where Gary Hall Jr. will decide whether probably Joe Fess can win the race because of how much pressure he puts on, and whether he himself can win the race. But if it turns into that situation with Joe Fess in front and the Falcon Strike outside of him, I think you've got to then look to Sokiola and probably to a lesser extent Double Identity to be hard to beat.
Yes, Adam, thank you very much. Look forward very much to catching your interviews throughout the evening and your thoughts race by race. An exciting series so far. I doubt the final will let us down. Geelong, they are being trapped race 9. Numbers here from Ron, 7-4.
Pressure's on.
Yeah, now, look, we'll have to try and lead, but it's a lot of speed there, and, you know, we'll see what happens.
All right, we're back to the starting point in the home straight here. You had a taste of it last week, last Friday night. You were drawn 2 there. You're drawn. Will that make it just that bit harder?
Yeah, probably will, Adam. In the front straight here, the gate it runs a bit different than Sydney and Melbourne a little bit, so we'll need a bit of luck. But, look, he's got enough pace probably to lead, but if there's no real quick speedsters out wide, you know, hopefully they sort of fan and I can sort of get shepherded a little bit at the start. But, you know, no, look, and it's not all, and if, you know, if we don't lead, we don't lead. But, I mean, I'll be trying.
All right, what are you doing in the way of little tactics before the race? There's been talk of pulling the hopple pins up, revving him up in the preliminaries.
Actually, no, the horse is super. Actually, the other night here, he was pulling going in the prim, so I don't really have to do much with him, I don't think. He wears shorteners out of the gate. And have
you pulled them up at all?
No, just the same. You know, it sort of, he got a little bit squeezed the other night, and I had to check out of it. But he's never done anything wrong in his life. You know, usually he begins pretty good, and he's not slow out. You know, he can hold his own. You know.
All right, and you've been happy with him this week?
Yeah, look, I'm going in here with no excuses. He's spot on, so right. I'm really happy.
Well done to you and your dad, Dick, for getting him as primed as he is for this series, and fingers crossed you can boot through.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see what happens.
Good on you, Darren. Thanks.
Thanks, sir.
Darren Hancock there in with a pressure position from the pole on Joe Fess. If he leads, he's just about the horse to beat. if he's headed off, he's in big trouble.
Certainly is, Adam. Let's go to Gloucester Park. Huge crowd building up. They expect 20,000 there. Mr. Inter Dominion is Brian Hancock.
Yes, Mr. Inter Dominion, Brian Hancock, setting up for another tilt at this Inter Dominion final. And Brian, you got 3 into the final. You were absolutely pumped here last Friday night at doing that. But what happened with the barrier draws?
I haven't had a draw so many, Adam, but that's racing, you know. I've sort of, and even getting good draws, had to drive them for luck. So, and I'm really happy with the 3 drivers I've got. You know, I'm wrapped in that. And I'm here, you know, things do happen in grand finals, and in saying that, haven't got good draws, but you know, we'll live with that.
All right, quick thoughts on who is the best of your chances. A lot of deliberation over drivers during the week. Blake Fitzpatrick, Country Ways, they're a good team.
Yeah, they're a great team, and Blake had his decision on that, Adam. You know, I never sort of said, he sat down in the feed shed the other afternoon with me and said, what do you think? I said, well, if I was driving, well, I'd drive Country Ways. And I got to say, I got to be honest with you, now. And Blake went away and thought of that, and he come back, and you know, he sort of threw it around, and he's on Country Ways, you know. And in saying that, Roger McNeely, my stable man, my leading man, he'd rather Blake drive Selby. So, you know, that was Blake's decision. He's got to live with that. So if he wins, if he don't win, you know, it's. But I sort of stick with him a little bit, yeah.
Country Ways are one to beat. Selby, if the race was run to suit, and with all respect to Peggy Dale, who, well, I've taken the mickey out of him a little bit during this carnival, but he's done a big effort to get this far. If he wins, I think they'll might burn the grandstand down here.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, you got to give him full respect. People don't realise that Peggy Dale come here. He was first reserve for the carnival, you know, and to the Clyburn family of out Condobolin Way, they had the respect to bring him over, you know, they had enough thought in him. And he's made the grand final in Dominion, you know, and that can never take away from the horse. And as I said, Adam, he was first reserve, so give full credit to the little horse.
Yeah, and I'll certainly do that. Well done, Brian. A superb job to get this far. See whether you can grab some of the big money.
I'll grab something, mate. Thank you.
Brian Hancock joining us there. The Inter Dominion King, Country Ways, is the best of his 3 runners.
We have the Echuca Cup less than 30 seconds away by the look of things. Park. We're pretty much up to speed with all of the information, so let's take this opportunity to head trackside. Sensational crowd as you saw the pictures coming through there, and I believe in excess of 20,000 people expected at Gloucester Park. A wonderful number for an Inter-Dominion Grand Final, and I'm sure they'll be rewarded with a wonderful spectacle. Already 4 races down, and here is race 5, an interesting situation here where all the talk is on whether this favourite can hold up from barrier 1. Plenty of talk during the week whether Joe Fest can do the same in the Grand Final itself, but it's joint commentary.
And of course Kim Prentice, who won with Baltic Eagle last year. There's some of the representatives here in this tribute to the Inter-Dominion driving greats. They're set to go. The green light is on. Millsboy favourite at 2:20 on the TAB, is holding up pretty well for FR Kersley. All 4 firing. Prentice tried to jump him, drew about a head in front, but Kersley winds up now on Millsboy. It'll hold the lead from all 4 firing. And the Iceman for Gary Hall Jr. dropping to the inside and going up behind the leader. He's been in everything tonight, Hall Jr. He's been in the young drivers races. He's been in the tribute to the Inter-Dominion greats, and he'll be on the Falcon Strike in the big one. Going up out 3 wide in the early stages is our Explore progressing forward. He'll be tracked around the field by On the Beach, and in the centre is Bobby Blue. Down on the inside is Rosso Vitore, and then a Toile du Nord taken 3 deep by Barry Purdon. At the head of the others, Little Fella, who settles on the inside of Catch a Jet, drifting back, and then Speedo, and settling at the back of the field, Lance Justice with Rat Attack. Lead time at 38:1. They head to the far side. Favourite Millsboy in front. Right around them comes On the Beach. Let go by Scott Phelan. Moves up to race without cover. On the back of the leader is the Iceman. Our Explore tucked into the middle for Chris Lewison. Going forward out 3 deep still is a Toile du Nord, and then Rosso Vitore for Lisa Justice. It's down on the inside. Going up in the moving line at the head of the others then came all 4 firing, restrained back to about midfield now. Back on the pegs to Colin Warwick with Little Fella. About to come to the outside was Bobby Blue for Anthony Butt. Got back to about 4th from last in advance of Speedo. Chris Alford locked away on the inside, and then Catch a Jet and Darren Hancock. And a length and a half away, Rat Attack at the tail of the field. They get the bell. First quarter in 30, the last quarter in second quarter 31-2. That's a split 61-2 out of the straight past the red light, 700 from home. And Millsboy looked to be travelling well. A Toile du Nord spent some gas but got to second. On the inside, the Iceman looked to be travelling well but waiting on a run. And they're followed by On the Beach, who tucked in again. Now it hooks out three deep. Our Explorers pushed very wide. Rosso Vittori drove up in the middle, and further back to Little Fella trying to weave its way through the field from Speedo. Right around the outside comes Rat Attack, about 5 and 6 wide, starting to run on, and underneath it Catch a Jet coming in on a wing and a prayer. That quarter in 30.9, still the leader Merle's Boy at the 250. On the outside, trying hard to get on terms, is On the Beach. A length and a half to the Iceman, about to work into the clear, and then Speedo turning for home though, and Merle's Boy still just the leader, but being tackled in earnest now by On the Beach. The Victorian import went to the lead. Here's the Iceman out of the ruck, starting to pelt home. On the Beach in front, the Iceman gunning it down, just missed. Just missed, I reckon. On the Beach is one at a breath to the Iceman. Merle's Boy third ahead of Speedo, Rosso Vittori, Little Fella R Explore. Next in was at the head of the others there, Bobby Blue, the South Aussie. Further back in the field then to a Toile du Nord, all four firing. One of the last to finish with Rat Attack. Catch a Jet pulled up very quickly. Both it and Rat Attack made fast runs off the back, but pulled up very quickly in the run to the line. 28.7 last quarter.
Okay, photo 8 over 2 by the look of things. 8 to 1 and 12 for quartet players in Western Australia. Echuca not too far away for their final event, inside a minute, and the selections here by Lachlan 9. We need a race-to-race double on Super Tab and a quartet on the WA tote to wrap those up. Scotty Phelan, well and truly in the thick of things this Inter-Dominion Carnival. He, of course, drove Napoleon and Holmes DG respectively through the series. Neither one of them qualified for the final, but they both ran good races on various occasions. And, of course, Scott was second in the Young Drivers' Championship, just beaten by Trevor Monday, so some consolation for Scott, who's only very young and has had still a career to date. To the Inter-Dominion Series for Mark Reid, that much talked about car chase through the streets of Perth, but he's looking for a different kind of horsepower tonight. He sits behind Buck the Odds.
Welcome back to Gloucester Park. Mark Reid, the young gun of WA harness racing, has a drive in the Inter-Dominion final. A lot of people believe his tactics early will be a key to the outcome of this race. Firstly, can he cause an upset here? Have we totally forgotten this horse in the mix for the winning chances?
Yeah, well, he was forgotten before the series, and he come out and struck a few early blows and beat the good ones. And, you know, I think he's if he's on his ball and like he was in the first heat, I reckon he runs some sort of a race.
What's trainer Peter Anderson saying? Because I'll be honest and say he looked tired the last 50 last week.
Yeah, and he felt a bit flat, and he never got out the gate like he did in the first heat. And Pete said he's jumping out of his skin and has done extremely well with a week's break. So, Madam, I think if the horse is cherry ripe and at his best, I think he can run a cheeky race.
And if you got in front, it gives you options, doesn't it? If they want to attack, you can take a sit. If they want to leave you alone, you can say, well, I'll be happy to stay in front. Yeah,
I'd like to stay in front. I think he's a 3-length better horse in front. But obviously, if there's a war, then we'll have to change our options. But first, we have to cross. If he gets out like he did the first heat, I think he will. If he gets out like he did on last Friday, I don't think he will. So if he's on his ball, I think he'll cross and run some sort of a race.
You still of the opinion that the Falcon Strike's the one to beat?
I think he's the one to beat, and I think if Joe Fest holds up, he'll be the one to beat. Even if not, if he's on me back, he's still he'll be him and the Falcon Strike and the two to beat, I think.
No worries. Good luck, Mark. It's just good to be part of it, I guess. And it sounds as though you think you're a little chance of an upset.
Oh, certainly. You know, everyone else has written us off, so I'm quietly confident.
Thanks for your help throughout the series.
Thank you.
Mark Reid joining us. He drives Buck the Odds, the horse most likely to lead, at least early, in the Inter-Dominion final.
Yeah, I don't think Mark Reid should be too perturbed by being written off. Of course, he was 25 to 1 when he beat the Falcon Strike in the free-for-all the week before the Inter-Dominion, and then double figures again when he won on night one. So a sleeping giant, no doubt, if he gets down to the pegs, leading or even behind the leader, he is more than just a solid each-way chance. Now, that is the latest Purry Mutual. The consolation of the Inter-Dominion might not carry as much class as the big one itself, Adam, but no doubt plenty of talent on offer nonetheless.
Yeah, terrific race, Sam. Added to the fact, in a lot of ways, by the appearance of Mont Denver Gold now from barrier one. Most importantly, he takes the barrier of the scratching Torpedo. And just quickly on Torpedo, devastation for the team there. The horse has blown a suspensory ligament and his racing career is looks in tatters at this stage. At least 12 months away from the racetrack for Torpedo, so really bad news for Connections there. But Mont Denver Gold gets in from barrier 1. Chris Elford, he's got a decision to make, hasn't he, Sam? I think he's got to actually ask Mont Denver Gold to leave the gate tonight, and I'm sure he will. It's not what the horse usually does, but if he doesn't take that option from the pole, he might as well not go round.
Adam, it's interesting. Lombo Lafifi has been talked about predominantly as the unlucky horse for missing out in the grand final, and I wouldn't argue with that. Her form was solid, and of course she beat the reigning favourite, not now favourite, but he was after the last night of heats in Mr DG. But as far as the sectional times are concerned, Mont Denver Gold was every bit as unlucky as her throughout the heats. And like you say, he's not blessed with an incredible amount of gate speed, but I'm sure he'd love to be on the back of Lombo Lafifi.
Well, I actually think, I'll disagree slightly. I think he's got the gate speed there, but they've always been very cautious of using it for fear that he won't finish off his race as well. I think Chris Elford's got to throw caution to the wind and ask Mont Denver Gold to leave the gate tonight. What a great scenario if he could sit behind Lombo Lafifi. Chris made some interesting points. He thinks she's going to be very hard to beat, the mare, and of course he drove her last week, Lombo Lafifi, but he did say that when she led and before taking the trail on Mr DG, she was over racing. He said when she got the cover, she relaxed. So if she's out in front by herself and pulling hard tonight, she might be a little bit...
About this Inter-Dominion, has speaking to anybody on course or any of the Connections trainers / drivers changed that opinion?
Only made it even more confusing. Mark Reed suggesting he may in fact hold the lead on Buck the Odds if he gets there. That surprised me. Darren Hancock talking fairly confidently about holding the lead. Suggestions Harry Martin might try and go for broke from barrier 2 to find the rail where Double Identity goes better. We're going to have fireworks early, Sam, and maybe Lance Justice is in the best position, one out off the inside on the back row.
Yes, a very good chance of it. I know that Lance has gained in confidence during the week. I guess he has to drive him with a sit tonight, Adam. It's not something that we have seen Sokiola being positioned in too many times in history.
No, very true. It's something pretty different for him, Sam, but I might just actually swap over because Harry Martin was walking past and we haven't had a chance to speak to Harry tonight about Double Identity. Harry, how serious are you going to get from barrier 2?
We'll be right there, Sam. Adam. Yeah, we're going to be pushing forward.
So you're going to see if you can possibly get across Joe Fess and find the rail?
I'm going to do my best. If I let too many of them go, we're going to be back in the tail of the field, so I've got to be up there somewhere. So we're going to be going as hard as we can go for the first bit.
He doesn't like the heat Double Identity. We've had some scorches this week, but he's had the beach to help him through.
Yeah, he's been good. And I don't think they've only had 2 really hot days, and the rest have been pretty good. So he's as good as he can be.
What a contrast from 12 months ago. He's at the top of his game now.
Yeah, we're hoping for that. And the weather's been better than what I thought it'd be, so I'm pretty happy that way.
Fantastic. Go and get him ready and go for it, Harry.
We're going to, mate.
Terrific. There he is, Sam. Had to get him on the way past, Harry, and he sounds pretty happy, doesn't he?
Adam, you've been called worse things than Sam, but I can't imagine too many worse. Just going back to Harry's comments, another one coming off the gate. I actually thought he might have been the one that would ease at the start. So we've got 5 probably going for the front, 6 with the Falcon Striker crossing over as well.
Yeah, hopefully Lance Justice is watching this, and if he is, I'm tipping he's got past that dose of the flu that he's been suffering this week, and he's jumping for joy at the prospect of an early speed war. More than a prospect, they're all talking tough.
Might I say he's curling the mo, Adam?
Well, that was a line used during the week, and I think he certainly would be doing that. But, Sam, just on another issue, I know we'll get the final out of the way, run and one first, but there is a booming story breaking over here about the trouble getting these horses back home. At this stage, it looks as though there's all sorts of trouble. So we'll talk a lot more about that on In the Gig, Sam, but it's a massive yarn.
Yeah, no doubt that will be a story that you'll follow up for us. So we're going to head off to the break with the Inter-Dominion last run at Gloucester Park. It was 1996. The leader Sunshine Band, for all intents and purposes, had the race shot to bits with Chris Gleeson aboard. Peter Morris had other ideas with young Charlie coming off his back to win.
Start to roar. It's Sunshine Band and Norm's Daughter locked together. Young Mr. Charles third, then Admiral's Ecstasy. Coming into it, wider out. Coming into it, Master Musician, then Desperate Comment. Talawit Pursuit going between runners and Shattering Class, but onto the turn. And Gleeson released the brakes on Sunshine Band. He found a length. Young Mr. Charles has had the cheap seat, and here he comes. It's Sunshine Band in front. There's one danger. Young Mr. Charles is cutting him down. Charlie poked his nose in front of Sunshine Band. Master Musician runs to third, but Young Mr. Charles wins the Inter-Dominion. Young Mr. Charles beats...
I'm all I wanna be.
Racing circles, and the WATA has done a wonderful job with this year's series. There's no doubt about that. There obviously are elements along the way in any series that you find a hiccup or two, but in essence the racing has been the main stage and the racing has been fantastic. So as they move up for the consolation, Mont Denver Gold, bearing in mind he does start from barrier 1 here, if you're having late bets, that you are definitely starting from barrier 1. It's the way the system works over there. They don't include the reserves in the barrier draw, and then they take the place of whichever horse is scratched if required. Either way, they are moving up. Lombo Lafifi, deserved favourite here, but at 2:30, I guess, is fair enough. No luxury all the same. Wes Cameron has marked her on top, 5, 3, 1 and 10. Let's go trackside.
Extraordinary mare that she is. Ruling favourite. What a field this is. For a consolation, they've won $4.5 million in prize money between them. They're set to go. There's a galloper. Napoleon has broken. He's down now, but lost 5 or 6 lengths. He's at the back of the field. Fifi began like a gazelle from the middle of the bunch. Sandy Bay going with her. The die is cast, showing speed. Mont Denver Gold went skywards. Really bucked as well. Drifted right back to the tail. He's down now. So Mont Denver Gold and Napoleon are second last and last on, settling down where Sandy Bay led, being accosted on the outside by the champion mare, and Lombo La Fifi is going to shoot to the lead in the consolation. A length and a half to the die is cast, and Flashing Red warms up now and moves up to race without cover. And then Ivory Trader Blue Galleon slips up along the inside of the Final Quest. About 2 lengths further astern, Nolarama. That mare covers Chivalrous Fella, about to retire from its career. A length and a half to Holmes DG. He's third from last on, settling down. Stablemate Napoleon moves up second last, the 4-year-old. And 2 away at the tail is Mont Denver Gold. Just hasn't been his series. They turn into the straight, 2 laps out in the consolation, and Lombo La Fifi, arguably the greatest filly produced in Australian harness racing, in front in the consolation, leads a half length on the outside. Flashing Red, lead time at 68.5 seconds, is quite quick. Running third is Sandy Bay. A length and a half, the die is cast on the inside of Ivory Trader, who wants to get up on the bid. He's giving away about 2.5 lengths to the breeze horse Flashing Red. Final Quest was next, covering Blue Galleon. A length and a half, Nolarama on the outside of Chivalrous Fella, and then Holmes DG. What a grand pacer he's been. A New Zealand free-for-all, 2 Auckland Cups, a True Memorial, 2 Miracle Miles. He's only a handful of bucks away from $2 million in earnings. On the inside, Mont Denver Gold and Napoleon is last, first quarter in 30 and 4. They run down to the top of the straight, about 1,000 a tramp. In front, Lombo La Fifi travels well for Anthony Butt. About a neck on Flashing Red, held well together by Grant Williams. A length and a half to Ivory Trader, travelling better now. Sandy Bay on the inside, and then the die is cast, followed by Final Quest in the middle. That's Nolarama peeling 3 wide. That quarter in 29.9, half in 60.3. Holmes DG gets into the running line out 3 deep now, and then Blue Galleon well back in the field. Napoleon around Mont Denver Gold, and Chivalrous Fella relegated to the tail of the field. The favourite Lombo La Fifi looked to be in cruise control heading into the back of the 600. 3/4 of a length away, Flashing Red. Sandy Bay goes well, and then Ivory Trader wide out. Nolarama is trying to run on, followed by the die is cast. Holmes DG off the track from Final Quest, and well back to Blue Galleon, Napoleon, Mont Denver Gold and Chivalrous Fella. 29.3 that quarter, and away goes Fifi. She put 2 lengths on them coming to the turn. Sandy Bay's about to work into the clear. Flashing Red can't go on, and then the die is cast. Blue Galleon, but Lombo La Fifi below the 100 is nicely out in front. Sandy Bay raising an effort on the outside, but the only twice she stood up this series, she's won a heat and the consolation of the Inter-Dominion. Lombo La Fifi beat Sandy Bay Blue Galleon and Flashing Red there for third. Behind them, the Dyers Cast, Denver Gold, no luck at all again. Napoleon likewise, Chivalrous Fella, Holmes DG. Well back to Final Quest, Nolarama, Ivory Trader never travelled and ran last.
Yes, too classy. Probably should have been in the final. That's the way racing falls, but certainly a dominant display in the consolation there by Lombo Lafifi. Well, Brian Hancock has 3 runners in this year's Inter-Dominion Championship. Gary Hall has 2. The favourite, the Falcon Strike, his second stringer, is faking it. He holds a fair few of the aces. Adam Hamilton speaks to him.
Well, Gary Hall Sr. has had a terrific build-up to this carnival. It's probably 3 months of intense local pressure. I have not seen anything like this for a long, long time. In some ways, you probably want this race over and done with.
Sure do, Adam. I can't wait for tomorrow, to tell you the truth.
And let's hope it's a good day tomorrow for you as well. What do you make of the barrier draw now you've had time to digest it as best you can?
It's not the worst barrier draw I can imagine. I see there's options there for him. I'm a little bit concerned that Joe Fest might hold up. I was sort of hoping that everything would draw bad, all the good horses, but they've all drawn good, so it's going to make it a great race anyway for the public. And if Joe Fest held up, I think that'd put us in a bit of pain. But if he doesn't, it might bring us right into the race.
You have said that the Falcon Strike drawn out where he is wide will show a lot more gate speed than people expect.
Yeah, he tends to get out a bit better from midfield, from 5, 6 and 7. He won the mile race from barrier 7. He showed a fair bit of gate speed that night, and he does get out a lot better from a bit wider. If he'd drawn barrier 2, he would have been a lot shorter, and people would have thought he was a much better chance, but I don't think that's necessarily right.
All right, and just in closing, you told us 7 days ago here that this break would get him right back to his best. Has it?
Well, I think so. Without him actually going out there and proving it, I can't tell you. But all the indications are that he's back to what he was when he won the mile race the first night of the heat. So I'm just hoping that he reproduces that form and goes out there and brains them.
All right. Well, thanks for keeping us up to date throughout the carnival. Just a few words on Fred Kersley will catch up with us later, but the draw's really cruel.
Yeah, it's killed him, really. He really wants the race to be absolutely run upside down. He just do nothing and maybe get home along the rail and get some nice, easy runs. But that's possible. It's happened before. Saab did it one year, I think, in the Pacing Cup. So he was chestnut as well. And Nine's got a pretty good record in the big races over the 2,500 metres. So hopefully Fred can weave some magic there.
Go the locals. Good luck.
Thanks, Adam.
There he is, Gary Hall, and a phenomenal build-up to this final for him. He's been wonderful with his time throughout the carnival, and we wish him the luck, all the best luck, the Falcon Strike. One of the big guns in our Inter-Dominion final tonight here at Gloucester Park is Sokiola. He's got better, Lance Justice, as the series has gone on, and judging by this week, he's going into the final a lot fitter than you are.
He's a lot fitter than me, and I'm sure that he'll run a really big race, Adam.
Yeah, just to explain that, you've had a rotten dose of the flu the last few days, but you've fought back for the big one.
Oh, yeah, I pulled myself out of the deathbed to get here, so I'm here.
You wouldn't miss this for anything. Is it just coincidence, or is it the fact the horse has actually got better in himself as the series has gone on?
He's just got better with the little problems that he had, and I think that tonight's his night to run a big race.
Except for drawing where he could zip straight to the lead, you've probably got the next best option.
Yeah, I just drove around a couple of races there a minute ago, and it's not really good to come from behind. It's a hard track.
It certainly is, but you've got him at his best. You've always said that given the chance to be driven set sprint,